Countdown.
There you go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the FanFaction. We're going to be talking about The Color Out of Space today, which is a 2019 movie directed by Richard Stanley, starring Nicolas Cage, Jolie Richardson, Madeline Arthur, Tommy Chong, Brendan Mayer. So before we start, just this will be a lot of spoilers in this. So if you haven't seen it, hit subscribe and come back once you've watched and let us know what you think down in the comments. So before we start, just a little background, I suppose. This Color Out of Space is actually an adaptation of a H.P. Lovecraft story, which is pretty cool in itself because you don't really see a lot of H.P. Lovecraft adaptations. And always Nick Cage is good value for money. So I think, Dale, this is your pick. So do you want to maybe start off, kick us off? What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I genuinely thought as Lovecraft adaptations go, I thought it was kind of up there with Reanimator, um, in terms of the balance between zany and horror. Because if you do read a lot of Lovecraft, you can see the flaws within his writing. It becomes pretty evident when you read him in large chunks at one time. Um, But I also thought this was a really interesting one because if you've paid attention to Nicolas Cage's acting career, you can actually see all the references that are made to other Nicolas Cage movies throughout the whole film.
Yeah,
But they all really fit in this. I think it's by no means an amazing movie, but I think it's actually a really good mix between that kind of goofy, campy horror, cosmic horror, and then when it needs to get serious, I the monsters in it. I think the monsters in this are actually really well done,
mhm.
um, and the fact that they're practical as well uh, was
That helps a lot.
what really kind of gave me the feels with this movie. Um, I have to say one of those Nicolas Cage movies where it never really made the cinemas, but it's one you really do have to watch in a good sense, not
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
what's that one he did, Ghostland or something, where he's got a bomb strapped to his balls.
I haven't seen that.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
there's it's something Ghostland or something like that, where he's a convict who has to go fight samurai with a bomb attached to his crotch to save a gangster's daughter or something like that.
Well, actually, speaking of plots, I should have actually prefaced this by saying that the plot of this movie is a secluded farm is struck by a strange meteorite, which has apocalyptic consequences for the family living there and possibly the world. So, like you rightly said, obviously it is a cosmic horror, um, and definitely the kind of wacky zaniness of it does lend itself well to Nick Cage and the kind of overall story. It's funny because I was reading after I saw this, like I think the talking point is always Nick Cage and his acting,
Mm.
but I had heard that apparently the director asked him to do Vampire's Kiss, which for those people who don't know it is probably Nick Cage's most outrageous role where he plays a vampire. And apparently that's the director's favorite movie, which is why he cast Nicolas Cage and asked him to play it that way. So that makes a little bit more sense. Because at times, I don't know if you guys felt the same. I thought that the his acting was a bit all over the place at times. It went from being really unbelievable at times to being really believable. Like I thought some of the emotive moments that he had to kind of portray were really good. And
Mm.
then anytime he had to like do one of his breakdowns, he reverted to Nicolas Cage going batshit crazy.
I didn't
But that yeah that
I didn't
um
know he was going to lose his he was in the progress of losing his mind. I just thought it was him hamming it up. Do you know the monsters
Yeah,
like are making the family lose their mind, and I thought he was just doing terrible acting. And then slowly I realized, oh shit, no, he's actually losing his mind. There's one scene where he's chatting to the daughter outside with the son, and he just loses it with her briefly. I was like, that was a bit overly done. And he's just walking off.
oh
You know?
yeah, he says something like "I've had it with your drama" or something
Yes,
like that in the
what is going on?
video. Yeah, but he did that. It's nearly like a schizophrenic the way he did it. Is like he has this little voice anytime he gets annoyed.
Hmm.
It
mm.
doesn't sound like his actual character. It's like he's playing another
But
part essentially.
the thing I thought was really clever about that is the fact that they kind of reference it at the very start where he says whenever something goes wrong he can hear his father, and that's when he reverts to Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
every time that I could again just as a side note, if you've like, especially if you've seen that movie, like
I've only seen clips, but Dylan, it's on Prime, so maybe that should be one of our picks for next month.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I've seen it about 4 times.
So it's good if you've seen it that many times.
No, it's just it's just really entertaining to learn how to chew the scenery.
Ben, you haven't seen it either, have you?
No. He was like, is he hamming it up in it? Is it the origin of crazy?
It's like the origin of the Age of Cage.
All right, yeah.
I think isn't that the movie where he does the alphabetizing the folders? Yeah, isn't that one Dylan?
I think so. So it's the one where you see he's got like the bug eyes and his head like this.
Yeah.
That image
yeah.
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 But anyway, yeah, I would agree. I think I think it takes about halfway through the movie really for you to realize that he's actually starting to lose it, and that he's not just a dick with his dream of alpaca farming and meat. I think the point for me during that is that whether they're meant to be peaches or tomatoes, because when he was harvesting, they were tomatoes. When he got them into the sink, they were peaches.
I kind of thought the same. I just assumed they were tomatoes, but yeah, bit weird. And then that scene as well. You know, he starts biting the tomatoes, and then when he's like throwing them in the bin, he's like jumping up and he's doing the whole over the top Nick Cage thing. It was very funny. It's funny as well because I don't know if it was affecting was the whole thing meant to be that maybe the entity was affecting him differently than it was affecting the other members of the family.
Yeah, so like in the color out of space, it's just like this indescribable thing that's just described as a color, but a color that no one really knows what it is. It affects everybody in its proximity very differently. I think it as a whole, I think the movie portrayed this unknowable thing really very well. Because with various levels of acting, obviously the mother is the most affected very quickly in the kind of darkest way, and the youngest son. But if you notice the bit of foreshadowing in the daughter's hair at the very start,
I'd missed that. What was it?
Yeah, so we're gonna jump from the very start to the very end. So at the very start, you see the daughter's hair has these purple streaks, and then towards the end of the movie, she becomes the conduit for the explosion. Then, because she's become fully part of the color out of space.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't see that.
Yeah. But yeah, so in the story itself, it does affect everybody slightly differently. I think one of the best reveals of that is Tommy Chong's character.
That seems cool. Yeah.
That was very cool. Also great to see Tommy Chong. I literally hadn't seen him in anything since Cheech and Chong.
He must be in his 80s now, I think. He's got to be.
Oh, yeah, he's well on.
He's got he and Cheech have a weed farm.
Dude, that's not surprising in any way.
Yeah.
This movie was it was a strange one for me. Like, I liked a lot of aspects of it, but I don't know what it was. By the end of it, I just felt uncomfortable finishing it. And I was thinking about it, and I thought it might have been the
in like a scary way, it made you feel uncomfortable.
No, I don't know what it was. I think it might have been the body horror with the mother and child just kind of turned me off a bit. I was like, this is just too much, It kind of like shat on the movie for me a bit, because I do like body horror, but I thought throwing a child in with a mom, I thought it was a bit, I don't know. I'm not squeamish in any way. I just thought it was a bit overdone, And
it was very, very dark.
Very dark, and there was no kind of levity, and the characters were kind of flat that I didn't really care about them that much, but then seeing that, it just felt like a lot of negative sort of energy around the movie a bit, and I thought towards the end kind of picked up again, but the first hour I found it quite tough to get through in that way, especially like it went from that happening with the mother and child and then into the alpaca barn. I was like, what the fuck? is going on? This is fucking crazy. You know, I thought the execution of that was excellent. It's up there with like The Thing in terms of like,
Mm.
was it animatronics or I don't know what it
Yeah,
was. But it was
it's really easy to see the parallels between the alpaca thing and the dogs at the beginning of the thing. You know, like they're very similar. And the body horror scene of the mother and the child, that's up there with any of those visuals in the thing. That
brilliant.
was incredible. And the
Yeah.
sound effects are really creepy as well, like the kind of like sucking noises and the moaning coming from both of them. Like it was really disturbing.
Very disturbing. The whistling
Mm.
annoyed me a bit. The constant high pitched whistling, I was like, just fucking Jesus Christ.
Just
You
kill
know?
them.
But yeah, there was a lot of really, really good aspects to it. Um, but it just lacked something. I can't quite put my finger on what it was, you know?
Mm.
Um, what do you guys think? Did you see any faults with it, or were you pretty
I would actually just to jump in, I would agree. I think it takes the first hour to actually really you are battling with will I shut it off or not
Mm.
about 50% of the time during the first hour, and then when it kicks in, I think it's interesting. Um, I thought the mother son monster was the best thing about it. I thought everything there was where the movie kind of needed to be for the in the first about half an hour into the first hour.
Mm.
Um, because the thing that got it for me is the constant screaming from the child. You're just like,
I
this
found
got.
I just couldn't. I was sitting there going, I can't, I'm not in the mood for this.
That child actor has really got those roles nailed. I always see him in horror movies. He was in the third Conjuring movie. He was in Haunting of Hill House.
Was he in that,
Um,
yeah?
yeah, he was the son in that. And
Oh, right.
he plays the in the Conjuring, the third one. He's like the little brother who's like he's at the start. He's like terrorized by the demon, but he just
Mm.
seems to just like only get horror roles. But he's really good.
Mm.
I think that's where for me, I think the movie got the casting pretty much spot on. Like I thought the brother and sister dynamic, Lavinia and Benny, I thought that was a really good part of
Hmm.
the movie. And like I like their whole sibling dynamic.
Mm.
Um, and I agree. Like with Dill, I think if they leaned more into the body horror stuff, maybe a little bit earlier.
Hmm.
I don't know. It just felt kind of like a side piece to the movie. Like the first hour, you don't really see anything. There's not
Yeah,
really anything.
it was a slow build. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Did you not find it a bit? It was a bit crazy in parts. It reminded me of the end of The Fly. Do you know the end of The Fly where he's like falling apart? And
Mm.
it labors on that for about a minute. It doesn't really shove it in your face. This is like goes on for like a good 10 minutes. I was like struggling to get through a few scenes, especially when they bring her up to the attic and the
Yeah.
cameras and you see the war start. I was like, man, Jesus Christ. Maybe it's because I haven't watched this kind of horror in a long time. Maybe I just need to
Mm.
get used to it again, you know? Fucking hell.
It kind of they kind of blew their beans a little bit early as well in terms of showing all the body horror stuff, but then actually at the end of it, the ending is quite tame in terms of what happens.
Hmm.
Do you know where Ward is going through the house and do you know you have that weird where you see everyone sitting on the couch in the sitting room and everything kind of goes blurry, do you know, and he's being chased. Like that's a little bit anticlimactic when you see everything that's happened before. Like it kind of should be nearly a slow build to
It
kind of
should be,
those body parts.
Hmm.
But
I like
I don't know.
I liked the set design. I don't know, cinematography, is that the right word for it? Was
Mhm.
Yeah.
the way everything looked was unreal, and the soundtrack fitted absolutely perfectly. It kind of reminded me a bit of Annihilation if you've seen that sci-fi. Just how sort of
Yeah,
that weird coloring and the weird music set over it. I thought it was very, very well done, you know.
yeah, it
Um,
had that shimmer effect
the shimmer, yeah,
almost. Yeah.
representing the color that you couldn't see. And the rash on his arms, man, was fucking creepy as hell. Just sitting there,
Oh yeah, that
maybe
was
the
a
Oh,
weird
fuzzy.
yeah.
thing.
That's the thing. Like that, it took too long to get somewhere.
Hmm.
And then like that, so you get to the end of where it's going bash. It's kind of meant to be going batshit crazy at this point, but like you've already seen two amalgam creatures. Then at
Yeah.
that point, I think that's one of the problems, is like both are impressive, but the alpaca one in a way is better than the mother son one, because the mother son one takes a bit. you can kind of see the legs of it go like some sort of toy robot thing. So it takes a bit too
Mm.
long to cross like 2 foot on the floor. Um, but yeah, no, I would kind of agree with that critique of the same, because like the whole them all sitting there kind of going join us thing was a bit like, nah, I don't really
Yeah,
care anymore.
Join us.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and it's like it is weird as well that you think the last character you're left with is Ward, who's kind of a side character as
Yeah.
well. You know, it's not like you're not
Mm.
left with any of the actual family at the end of it, which is
Sean
strange.
should have been Ward, really, shouldn't he? It kind of like without the romantic thing with the sister, obviously, but it should have been.
Yeah,
It should have been. He should have been the guy like going around, and like the ending of the son was kind of odd. He just jumped into a well, wasn't it? And then the well sort of.
yeah. He went down to try and get the. Well,
Yeah.
he thought the dog was down there. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought we were going to see the dog at some stage being like some crazy creature like the cat. Don't you get a brief look at the cat G spot?
Yeah, yeah.
But I thought that was pretty like the CGI cat, like just leave it out, you know? But
There's no need.
Yeah.
It was cool. Did you guys notice any little HP Lovecraft kind of Easter eggs sprinkled throughout?
Oh, there was kind of loads of little ones.
Yeah. When she's washing the dishes at the start, she's listening to, I don't know if it's the TV or the radio, and they mention Dunwich and Innsmouth.
Yeah.
Do you know?
And
I think
and
there's just
then
little bits like that sprinkled in there.
and then the closest town that's actually to them is Arkham.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this you see, this is the ultimate problem with Lovecraft adaptations. They're going to take too long to build,
What
which
part
is
of it kind of do you think?
all of it really. This is why I think it's actually a perfect Lovecraft adaptation, because all his stories take too long to build, and then when you get there, they're really impressive for a couple of pages, and then apparently, everyone who experiences this goes mad, but yet they can still keep writing as they're going mad.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the way
it's
the
penmanship.
ending felt. Yeah, that's kind of the way the ending felt with the family sitting on the couch. It's like you've gone mad now, but you're still able to write it down at the same time. Um, but yeah, it was kind of things that I'd love to see if people kind of just got together and did like the Lovecraft verse. Do you know?
Yeah. Well, that's
It's
actually
well, that's
always.
what wasn't that what Lovecraft County was actually meant to be? Um, that show.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And actually, funnily enough, apparently this was meant to be the first of a trilogy of H.P. Lovecraft films, but apparently it's not going ahead anymore because the director, there was allegations of domestic abuse, and basically the studio just cut ties with him. So you might see maybe a different director pick it up, but I'd be all for seeing more H.P. Lovecraft adaptations because there's not a whole lot out there. Like probably the most famous one is the Del Toro one that's been like in development for
Apparently,
God
it's
knows.
back on track.
Apparently, you just
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's holding it up. Is it budget? Is it, do you know, like what is it? I would assume Del
Well,
Toro has a script written.
the initial problem was Ridley Scott's Prometheus is pretty much an adaptation of In the Mountains of Madness.
Ah,
Um, so like because they were actually meant to begin production at the same time,
mhm,
and then I think what was I reading? It was quite literally Prometheus started a month before In the Mountains of Madness,
mhm.
and Del Toro was like, no, they're too similar. I can't put it out. Um,
Yeah,
I think over the last while it's become an issue of budget, but I think that's what Cabinet of Curiosities was meant to kind of show, the fact that Lovecraftian style horror has a place, like the first episode of Cabinet of Curiosities. Um,
oh yeah.
I think that was the point of that show.
Mhm.
Um, but again, Lovecraftian horror, anything that is cosmic and unknowable is technically Lovecraftian, which like Annihilation or anything like that, which is better examples of it than adapting Lovecraft work.
Yeah, yeah. Like I would
Um,
say, Annihilation is a better movie than this is. Not saying that this is a
yeah,
bad movie, but
no,
it is better.
it's on the great side of average.
I haven't
Hmm.
read much Lovecraft. No, I haven't read any Lovecraft. Would it be a faithful adaptation, or would it be obviously it's a
I think
different
it's a, I
era, you
no,
know?
I think it's a great adaptation of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Is
to be
this
honest,
was it a full-size novel, Dylan, or was that one of his short stories?
no, it's one of his shorter stories.
Hmm.
Um, but it's one of those where he's like, yeah, again, I think the part of the reason for me I feel it's such a good watch is that if you are a Lovecraft fan, you can kind of get the sense that like someone who really is into Lovecraft's writing and things like that made it, but they understand it so very well that it, it's kind of boring until it's like he wrote in such a way that he's like, they're going to get bored about halfway through and then I'm going to do something. And I'm going
Yeah,
to repeat it. I'm going to repeat the same thing maybe 2 or 3 times, and then we're going to fluff the landing. But it'll be grand because you had 2 or 3 instances of something really, really good in the middle of it.
yeah.
Um,
It might have been, yeah, he had this thing in his head where he's like, oh, I have these brilliant ideas for these practical effects, and you need to nearly just do everything around that, do you know?
yeah,
But
What
no,
was
like still an enjoyable watch, but definitely a weird one. Um,
what was the daughter doing with the occult stuff? Did that have any significance? Did it lead anywhere? Do you remember she's
that was
cutting
well.
herself?
That's where it came into. So she was into like witchcraft and things like that, and that's where she becomes the conduit for the end
Ah,
explosion.
okay. Okay, yeah.
Um,
yeah, I wasn't sure about that either. I kind of just thought she had done it to protect herself, to ward herself, but it was already too late and she didn't realize
hmm.
it. And I was like, oh, the wardings didn't obviously work in the end, but that makes much more sense.
I was sitting my other half just came into the room as I was watching the kitchen scene where your one's cutting the carrots and she
Oh
literally
yeah,
turns
no.
her head to look at the TV the second the fingers get cut. Like, Jesus
But like
Christ.
that was like one of the most disturbing parts of the movie.
Was, yeah.
Yeah,
It keeps cutting as well. It's like my
Yeah,
day.
it's one of those things as well. I think everyone can relate to. Obviously, you never chopped off your fingers before, but everyone can relate to that feeling of cutting yourself with a knife. Do you
mm.
know?
Where did she get that knife from? That's what I want to know. That's a very sharp knife. Just one slice straight through bone.
Got to get the whetstone out.
Yeah, exactly. What was she in? She's in a few movies.
um,
A great one that you two who have known me for very long have spent 20 years disrespecting. It's
Event
called
Horizon.
Event Horizon.
Pure shite. Pure
I
Um,
was
shite.
I was going to say 101 Dalmatians, the live action.
Oh, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah. Yeah, that's a better movie.
and you're full of shit.
I hear the toilet flushing in the background. It's Event Horizon going down the chain, you know?
we do have to watch it again. I do
Oh,
feel like
definitely. I haven't seen it in
yeah,
years. Yeah.
I do feel like I watched it at a bad time. Um, it's on the rewatch list for
I
sure.
hear it was the what was it 30th anniversary of it recently.
It was
Was it?
94, yeah, 94,
30th.
95.
Um, and it's all the rage because Amazon have it pipped to turn it into a limited series.
That might be a good way
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
of yeah, doing the reboot.
Because there's call to try and get the director's cut out, but because it was literally just before the advent of DVD, the apparently the most like horrific scenes are lost because
That's a shame because, like, I mean, you said the most horrific. Like, I mean, there's some pretty like gory and
well
hardcore
apparently
scenes in that
yeah.
movie.
But again that's a Lovecraftian horror,
Hmm.
do you know?
Yeah,
But yeah,
no.
apparently there was like half an hour of footage that had to be cut because it was just like they couldn't be rated.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
they had that. When did the rating X go? Because that was the thing, wasn't it? In like the 80s, wasn't there a rating
Oh yeah,
X
that
in the
was
States?
for the video nasties.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking, oh, maybe you could get away with an X rating, but then again, I don't know how many people are you going to get in to see
I
a
did,
movie
yeah.
with an X rating.
Nobody would distribute it, you know? You'd be like,
Well, I think
Yeah,
that yeah, isn't it? That's what an X rating is. It's like or was now it's R hard R, which is
yeah.
quite tame, really.
Hmm.
geez, lads, this movie tanked in terms of box office. 6 to 12 million budget, 1 million box office.
Ooh,
Fuck. That is,
that's bad. You would have expected it to recoup 12 million. That's not a
I
lot of
mean,
money.
it's definitely like, it's a grand movie. I thought it would at least broke even, you know?
Maybe as a consequence of maybe there was other things out at the same time, maybe that were kind of blockbusters. That always happens with it's the unfortunate
Mm.
timing, I guess, of releasing when there's bigger movies out. Or just maybe they didn't do enough marketing, maybe, to get the
It does feel like it's a problem of, because it would have made its budget back, but it's a problem of limited releasing.
Yeah.
yeah.
And the
Yeah.
fact that now you can rent it for £4 on YouTube. Do you know?
Elijah
Like,
Wood produced it. There you go. There's Wikipedia. It's right there. Never lies.
never.
Never. Yeah. Yeah, overall, I don't want to sound too negative about it. I really enjoyed like a lot of aspects of it. It's just for some reason it just didn't sit with me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it was, as Dale said, it took a while to get going. Then it was just everything at once. So it was probably a pacing issue. But
Yeah.
I would recommend it for people who like body horror and that kind of genre of horror, you know. I think it's there's been a research in that recently. The last one we watched was The Void. That kind of body horror stuff is excellent, you know. So
And very Lovecraftian as well.
yeah.
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 But I feel as I get older, it's tough. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm facing my own mortality, and I don't know.
No, I think it becomes a bit of a thing where you're just like, you're settling something, especially with body horror, where you're like, it's like we were talking about this here. I were sitting there and we had cake today, and we're both like, we're getting too old for sugar. Like it is the same thing when it comes to movies and those kind of things, where your taste kind of change and your tolerance changes a little bit for this. Again, yeah, I would agree. I think the biggest issue with this is it's so slow to really kick off, and then when it does, it realized it was too slow. But if I had to get, it's a solid 3.
Yeah.
I think
That's what I
you'll
was gonna
never
say.
watch it again, but it's a solid 3.
That's
You
what I
give it
was
a
going
3,
to do.
Ben. What about you?
3.
3.
Yeah.
I'd give it a 3.5. I think I think this is definitely one, even though like I think there's a few criticisms that we have. I think I would gladly sit down and watch it again, and maybe I might take more from it the second time. Particularly the ending, like obviously the way I thought kind of Lavinia was like I didn't realize that all those symbols had kind of turned her into a conduit. So obviously there was stuff that maybe I didn't pick up on the first time. So I'd be interested to go see it, to sit down and watch it again down the line. But yeah, no, 3.5 I think for me.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's good. But so we've got 2 more movies this month. We've got Parasite and Late Night with the Devil. So I think next time we'll be doing Late Night with the Devil. So we wrap this up, guys, anyway.
Yep.
Good stuff. Thanks a
Sounds
million.
good.
Oh, I think
Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. I think by the way, have I cut out a few times?
You've frozen in inappropriate positions a few times. Did you notice
Pop
that
off.
the camera just freezes?
I did, yeah. Where is it?
Yeah. I'm not intense. I'm just frozen.
It's like
No,
Willie.
Grant,
What is in The
I'll get
Simpsons where Homer gets accused of sexual assault and he's on Rock Bottom, the TV show, and he freezes in that really weird position on screen. His eyes are like, "Get back, Mr. Simpson!" No,
Hopefully nothing as bad as that.
no, it's not.
But yeah, no. So we'll wrap up, and to the viewers out there, let us know what you thought of this. If you've seen it before, if not, like I said, hit subscribe, go and watch it, come back, leave some comments, and as well, if you think of any movies that you'd like to see us review, leave a comment and let us know, and we'll see if we can fit them in down the line. But yeah, thanks, lads, and we'll chat soon.
Look, bye bye.
Bye.